Hi, welcome back to my channel, The Entrepreneurial Mum. If you're new to this channel, I welcome you. I am Fiona Kumapiri, the founder of House of Ariana, Ariana's Kitchen, and the Fitness and Wellness Network. Have you ever heard of the term inner child or inner child wounds? Or perhaps you've seen some reels or some content and maybe you've been wondering what is this whole inner child thing all about? Or maybe you've heard things like you need to heal and you're unsure of heal from what, heal what exactly. So on today's episode, I'm going to be covering inner child and inner child wounds, or rather I'll be briefly introducing the topic, and then next week I'll be diving deeper into more about the inner child and inner child wounds. So without much further ado, let's dive right into it. What is the inner child? What is the whole concept all about? So in the simplest terms, the inner child is a part of us that holds memories, experiences, and emotions that we generally went through as children or as a child. So these experiences, they shape and they affect how we see ourselves, how we see those around us, just basically how we look at our view of the world. All these are affected or they are shaped by the experiences that we had as children. So we've talked about the inner child, but what about the inner child wound? So the inner child wounds results from unmet needs or maybe traumatic experiences that leave emotional imprints in us. And then why is it important for you to know about the inner child or inner child wounds? Well, when you have unresolved inner child wounds, they affect your adult life. They affect the way you make your decisions. They affect the way you interact with people. They generally, sometimes the reason why we might even self-sabotage in certain situations, or we might find ourselves overreacting and wondering why we're overreacting, is because of these unresolved inner child wounds, mostly because we're unaware of the unresolved inner child wounds, because rather we are unaware that we even have these inner child wounds and that they're not resolved, because of course you can't resolve anything that you do not know is a problem. And inner child wounds can be so evident in how we parent our children, how we interact with our kids, or just it might not even be your own child. It might be just someone who's at the age at which maybe you experienced that traumatic experience, or it could be the age at which you had that unmet need but anyways, basically anytime that you find yourself in a situation where either your child or someone at a certain age is triggering you, it's probably giving you a sign that whatever it is that they're triggering, it could be an unmet need that you experienced at that age that needs to be healed, or it could be you may have experienced something traumatic at that age. And in that moment, the way our brains work is that it's like your brain is kind of experiencing it as though it's happening again, though you're now maybe much older and the setting is different, but it could be the words that the child said or the way that they acted. It could trigger a certain memory in your subconscious that makes you now act on it in your present state. And this could either be in reacting in a bad way, or basically from a place of fear or a place of where you're trying to protect yourself. So inner child wounds can sometimes also show up in how we parent, how we interact with people who might be at a younger age than we are. But also, like I said earlier on, when we have unresolved inner child wounds, they affect how we make decisions, and this can really affect you in terms of being an entrepreneur or being in the business area or even in your career. It affects your self-esteem. It can affect basically how you think other people see you or how you see other people. So if you have these things that are unresolved, you're going to find yourself struggling to express yourself because there's certain things that happened a while back that either were suppressed or repressed, and you never really got to deal with them, and then they show up now as a limiting factor now that you're an adult. So you might find that maybe, for example, I used to find it so hard to express myself when it comes to just generally, even with my kids, even with people my age. I would freeze, like I would literally freeze, like maybe mid-sentence, or maybe there's some conflict and you're trying to resolve it, and I would completely just shut down. And I remember a friend getting so frustrated with me, like, we're not going to resolve this if you shut down. But beforehand, I didn't know that actually what was happening to me was that in that moment that we're arguing or having this conflict, my mind would like super speed, I don't know what to call it, but on a subconscious level, it would try and resolve the issue, not resolve the issue per se, but it would try and protect me from the possible consequences of what I was about to say. So I would shut down because I would fear that if I say the truth, then possibly I might damage this relationship. But at the same time, I am freaking out because I'm feeling like I'm betraying myself for not saying the truth. So in that, it would be like a conflict type of situation where I know what I need to say, but I'm trying to protect the relationship as well as trying to protect myself. And this, I then learned that it came from as a child in times of conflicts in the family, or in times of maybe I'm in trouble. How was it handled? If I was given the platform to freely express myself, then it means in adulthood, even if I am faced with conflict, then I would easily be able to express myself. But if as a child, every time I said maybe the truth, I was ridiculed or shamed or got even into more trouble for it. Now as an adult, when conflict like this happens, I'm now in a state of fear because I don't want to experience what I experienced as a child. So you see how this plays out. If it's not healed, if your inner child wounds are not resolved, later on in future, it affects or it limits you in places where you should have been able to maybe grow as a person, or you should have been able to express yourself, or you should have been able to stand up for yourself, and you fail to do all that because in that moment your brain kind of recalls what happened to you back when you were a child, and then it signals danger to you in the present. So again, as an entrepreneur, it really does affect how you handle business, how you present your products, how you present your services, and how you interact with your clients, your customers, your team members. It really is important for you to be or rather for you to know all about the inner child or the inner child wound, so that you're self-aware, and in so doing you can be able to recognize the ways in which maybe your unresolved traumas or inner child wounds are affecting you or limiting you from, be it your personal growth, because most times your business is going to grow at the rate at which you personally are growing. So if you have certain limits because of unhealed traumas or unhealed inner child wounds, it's really going to show up, or it's going to show in how your business is also limited. It will only grow so much because you're either afraid of something, because as you're growing, maybe your business might require you to be out there more and maybe speaking to potential investors and all that. But if you lack self-esteem, you're going to always find excuses, and you're always going to find ways to sabotage yourself from going further. So those are some of the reasons why it's also important for you to know about inner child and the inner child wounds, and maybe how to go about it in terms of healing. And generally it's just important for you to also be self-aware, so that you understand that what is happening to you right now, is it really self-sabotage from a place of unhealed trauma, or is it something that needs to be dealt with because it really is something that is happening to you in the present. So briefly, this is the intro to the inner child, basically the inner child and inner child wounds. Next week is when I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the nitty-gritties about it. For example, feelings of abandonment, feelings of rejection, like how did they start? How do you heal things like those? How do they show up in your adult life? How can you, for example, notice them? How can you know that you're dealing with the rejection wound? How can you know that you're dealing with the abandonment wound, and so on and so forth? I'll be talking about the effects of growing up in a chaotic environment. How does it affect you as an adult? We'll also be talking about signs of the unhealed inner child. So be sure to subscribe and tune in to next week's episode as we go deeper and we get to learn more about the inner child and inner child wound. How can we heal? What are the benefits of going through this healing process? And also, as a parent, how does this help you in parenting, and also ensuring that you're not inflicting more wounds onto your child? So yeah, be sure to tune in to next week's episode. If you have particular questions about the inner child and inner child wounds, be sure to comment or DM me. Let's have this conversation. But don't miss next week's episode as we go deeper into the inner child and inner child wounds. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, The Entrepreneurial Mum.